Hey guys, I'd like to start with a round of applause just because. I was going to add though that there's actually a legitimate reason to applaud too. The Big Conservatory program is over 1 year old. And I know that the majority of you, maybe even all of you, have been to a Conservatory Tuesday, and you've seen the fruits of our collective labor. Tuesday's a hot night in Baltimore. Tuesday's a hot night at the Baltimore Improv Group, and it's a big deal that you're here. It's a big deal that we're celebrating our year anniversary, 13-month anniversary to be precise. So welcome. We're really excited to see you guys, and thank you. We have a whole agenda that we're going to run down. We know you guys are going to have questions and comments and concerns. We just ask if possible, try to hold them till the very end so we can deal with them all at once. And that way we can hopefully get out of here in the next 60 to 75 minutes. Cool?
Sounds great.
Great.
Let's do it.
And specifically to start off, I wanted to welcome anyone who's here that's brand new to Big through Conservatory. We're so excited to have you guys here. We just wanted to start by talking a little bit about what the Conservatory program is about. What is our aim? It was intended to be like a training program, expanding the theater, growing our performers, having people be able to come out of classes and get into a regular rehearsal performance team that gets stage time and can grow in long form. We talked at the Alt Theater meeting about how we want to shift into some more game-based improv. So that's really going to affect Conservatory this round. We want to be leaning into playing game in these shows and build a confidence and a high skill level in attacking improv in that way. Anything else you guys wanted to add about the program in general? That takes me into sort of commitment level. What do we expect when you come into the program? So weekly practices, right? Weekly coached practices. 2 hours is the norm, is what we expect. I would open it up if your team is willing and excited for you to extend that to a 2.5-hour practice, a 3-hour practice. It would be delightful.
7-hour practice.
7-hour practice.
3 is good. 3 feels good.
3, over 2, here would be my argument for over 2 hours, is that if you want to run a set in your practice, you have time to do scene work and exercises that you can take your time with. And then if you go 2.5 hours, you can run your set at the end and you're not giving up that scene work time. But it's totally up to the teams. What we would like to see is weekly 2-hour practices. Your shows will be bi-weekly. We of course want you to stay for notes after your shows so you can get that feedback from your coach or a note taker that is there. And we're hoping for high attendance and high participation. So, of course, no one can be there every single practice and every single show, but we would like for the majority of the team to be there the majority of practices and shows. We will be looking at, I'm going to create like a Google form. Turns out we're big fans of Google forms.
Yeah, great.
So I'll be sending that out to the team liaisons, as a way to sort of like keep track of like who's able to make it regularly and who's at the shows and is that going strong or are there some issues there. It plays a big role in how much your team can grow, how committed you all feel to each other, and how quickly you can pick up what your coach is putting out there for you to learn. So I just encourage you to invest in it. Let's see, so we have 9, most of the teams have 9. Try not to get lost in the 9. I feel like 9 is maybe like a higher number than some of us are used to. Terry and I talked about it a lot. 9 or 10 is really normal for like Chicago house teams. 8 tends to be normal in New York. Just know that everyone is an important member of that team. So don't try to avoid coming to practices and feeling like, well, there's 7 other people doing this thing, or like if I'm not there, or if I don't step out. Like we want everyone to be fully participating, right? So don't get lost in that number.
I think too, with like the move to game-based, having more people is like really fun. It's a big benefit. Game is hard because it requires a lot of thinking of the next move, how to hide and how to explore. And when you have all these extra creative minds on your team, it takes a little bit of pressure off, and it's really fun to get to see what other people think up when you're maybe struggling a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It expands that group mind, which I think is great. The numbers may fluctuate, like if people, if something doesn't work out schedule-wise for someone and they have to step away for a time, or someone moves to another team. Teams may go down to 8, we may leave it there. I just want to give you a heads up. I don't think in the past we've added members, but for me personally, if a team starts to drop down to 7, maybe sometimes 8, depending on the team, I might be looking to plug someone into that team and fill that slot. I'd like for them to stay like a nice, rounded, at least 8 players on each team. But it'll be specific and unique to each team. And that team is great. So I mentioned the forms going out just to sort of like stay in touch with us and know how the team is doing. So that'll come from the team liaison. Anyone who's been in the rounds previously has already had experience with that. But for anyone who's new, that's just essentially someone who represents the team, talking to us, communicating to the coach. The liaison, I think normally, unless you split it with someone else, would be the person that would gather team dues. I would recommend monthly to pay for coaching. Organizing schedule, checking back in about practice times, just sort of being that connector for the team to be like, hey, everyone remembers that we're meeting at 7 tonight, and double checking with the coach. Barry on Nature's Dirt, I think I've been coaching them, and he's been a great liaison. So he sent some words of advice that I'd love to share for anyone who. This was not unsolicited. I was like, you're great at this, what would you recommend? So these are Barry's words. Pick one mode of communication and stick to it. So like, if email's your best thing, stick to that. If you're better on texting, stick to that. Try not to be like tracking multiple things of who's getting in touch with you when. Keep a team calendar. I thought was a great suggestion. Check it weekly and remind everyone about what's going on. Keep your information in a shared place like a Google Doc so you don't have a bunch of one-on-one questions coming at you. And handling the money once per month, trying to keep track of payments every week. He says it's a mess, especially if anyone ever gets behind. So I think that's a great thing to stay on top of. And then just his advice was do things as soon as they happen. Like just don't let it pile up for that liaison when it starts to feel harder than it is. So add shows to your calendar as soon as they're booked, etc. Barry is available. If you would like to talk to him, they are going to be a liaison for the first time. He's like, anyone can ask me anything about it. But it really is just someone who keeps the team running, I think, really smoothly and makes a solid connection with your coach. which leads me into the team-coach relationship for this round. So we did it a little differently. This is one of the big changes this time, which is that the teams are choosing their own coaches. I think most teams have reached out to coaches. Does that seem right? Almost everyone has someone. So if you do or you don't, just like email me and confirm so that I know who you're beginning with. We sent out that recommended list to help you. I think emailing the coaches is the easiest, most streamlined thing. Of course, if you see them at the theater, you can ask them in person. But just moving forward, the things that I want you to consider when choosing a coach are like, what is the style that your team is trying to develop? What is the direction you would like to move in? Which performers on stage have you seen that capture what like the majority of your team feels like could be the energy for you, right? Reach out to that person. Ask around, what are teams that you like, the way they perform, who's coaching that team? Just keep those things in mind when reaching out to someone. Obviously, schedule and availability is limiting, so we put availability on the recommended list. That'll change immediately. As soon as everyone picks a coach, like all of that availability is out. But we can still use that list for contacts. The fee also, obviously coaches have different fees. The newer coaches tend to have lower fees. So if that's important to your team, please keep that in mind. And then when you're reaching out to the coach, I would recommend that you check in with them, like, are you still able to commit to us weekly, right? It's a new thing, we were alternating coaches before. So just making sure, like, we can meet every week, are you available for that? How long would you feel you could be committed to working with our team to get a sense of, is this a 3-week thing and then their schedule will change? Or can they stick with you for a few months? I would say, obviously, conflicts, just like for people showing up to practices, will arise for coaches. And in that situation, I think it's like a really great opportunity to work with the sub. I feel like having a substitute coach come in and work with your team can give you a fresh point of view, a fresh energy. Maybe something you've been hitting really hard with one coach has started to feel stale, and this new person has a new take on it. Or maybe you're focusing on this area and this substitute coach comes in and says, oh, you know, you guys could really benefit from this over here. And it can create a really nice balance. I think if you know ahead of time your coach can't make it, I think I would recommend teams reach out to the sub of your choice, somebody that you feel that you haven't gotten to work with yet and you would like to. And in cases where it's a last-minute cancellation by the coach, I would love for the policy to move forward that that coach should find you a sub, right? So like if that morning something comes up, the coach can't make it, bless you. I think it would be good practice for them to reach out and be like, I've got this other person, they can come in, so that the team doesn't have to scramble. If the coach isn't able to find a sub, I also think it's good practice for them to offer a makeup at no charge, right? We cancel on you with a couple hours notice. When was another day we can do? Or like, can the next session be on me? I think it would just be a good practice. The flip side of that is if your team is scheduled for practice and you cancel on a coach without 24-hour notice, that coach should still be paid, would be my recommendation. Each coach may have a different policy on it, so check with your coach when you start working with them and see like what are they comfortable with. Some people maybe need more than 24 hours if they're coordinating childcare or work schedules. And some people may feel like it's not a big deal, but I think it'd be good policy for our teams to offer, just to build that trust and relationship. And keep in mind when you're picking subs, like one thing we're trying to do with conservatory is grow the strength of our improv, but we also want to be growing the strength of our coaches, right? So when you have a chance to work with a different coach than your regular coach, consider trying someone who's new at it, because not only might they have great insight for you, but you're helping them build up to be a better coach for our community. That's what
No, I agree with all that.
Good. Let's see. Where am I? Great. So I also wanted to mention that there are some people that are very interested in doing one-off workshops. Kate Zielinski specifically offered to do one-off workshops with conservatory teams. Areas that she mentioned she would love to focus on are agreement and framing the game, just like finding that first individual thing and agreeing on it and hyping it, or openings and group games. So keep her in mind if you ever, she tends to be around on Tuesdays, so like if you're not performing on a Tuesday, I suspect that would be a good night to be like, hey, maybe we want to rehearse or do a one-off workshop. And I think other people that have mentioned being really interested in doing one-offs to me are like Roy Taff, Mike Harris, Michael Hartwell would love to work with you if you want to do a workshop on something, Jason Herbert. Like there's a lot of people around that would love to work with you if you have something special that you like to do.
This is also a great way to, like, if your coach knows that they can't attend a session, they can get one of these people to do a workshop in place of that official practice with the coach. So it's also a great way to sort of like plan ahead. If you know the coach can't be there, you can stick one of these workshops in instead.
Mm-hmm. And then I just wanted to touch on a sort of like who's in charge when you have a coach. Because I feel like it's something that's like working steadily with a coach and choosing one coach moving forward is maybe not been the norm before conservatory came around. So my take on this is the team chooses the coach, right? So the team is hiring the coach to essentially like work for them, right? That choice is completely up to the team. You're picking someone you think would be a good fit. Once you've chosen that person, put your faith in that person and trust that person to guide you. So they have a unique perspective on your team. They may have a vision for a direction that they would like to encourage your team to move. I think that if you don't follow them in the direction they're leading, then they're not really truly being able to coach you, right? So you're not getting the most out of that relationship. I would say trust your coach, follow where your coach wants to lead you. And if you've given it time and you start feeling like, I don't know, this doesn't feel like a good fit, I think our visions don't match up, and the team is sort of feeling like maybe we want to try a shift, it is completely up to the team to just let your coach know. Like, I think, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I think we're leaning in this direction. I think we work together again in the future. But that's completely up to the team, right? So the team is in charge of how long you stay with your coach and if you want to make a shift. But when you are with them, I would say just, let them direct you. Let them know you, be open to that. They're meant to be your leader when they're with you.
And give them some time, like don't make any knee-jerk decisions after like 1 or 2 sessions. Give them a couple sessions, get a feel for them, and then decide.
Yes, I agree. And I would love to see teams stick with coaches for the entire, 3-4 months or like the next round or whatever. But it is up to you. Performances. So we've done a couple different approaches on formats for teams. We had one round where formats were assigned right away. We had the most recent round where teams would like to practice. You practice together for a while and then chose your format. And this round we're going to do it differently as well. We're going to have you all start with a format. And that format, probably you can guess, is going to be a herald. We would like for every team to do a herald. We are extremely excited about having every team do a herald, and here's why. The herald form practices all of the skills of playing and heightening game. It practices working in group scenes, and it practices having solid 2-person beats. Making callbacks and connections at the end of your set, having it blend together. It's like all of these things that are, I think, core to being a great improviser are built into the structure of it. So I think that it improves one's ability to work with a team, to heighten game, and to play in a group, in group scenes, like with a larger group. What I don't know is if everyone has done a herald. Has everyone done a herald? No. Yeah. So not everyone. So this is what I would recommend the coaches guide you through if you haven't done one. I would say you could hit the ground running and say we're going to herald it up on night 1. I would also be completely comfortable with you starting with a modified Herald montage. So that would be 3 distinct first beats with 2 people in each scene. Walk-ons welcome, support welcome, but mainly 3 2-person scenes. Then a group game, and then after that, you're free. You know what I mean? Like, after that, you can revisit those beats if someone has a callback they want to bring in, or a second beat, or you could introduce new scenes. But we did that actually with Nature's Dirt, for them to ease into their Herald this round, and I found it worked really well that, like, they started second beating before they were asked to. It happens naturally. It's a really easy way to sort of, like, ease into it and feel loose. I think for where there will be flexibility this round is choosing your opening. I feel really like breezy about that. Like, I'd love to see different openings happening. I mean, right now we have a pattern game happening with Nature's Dirt. I'd love to see an invocation. I'd love to see organic physical opening. I'd love to see monologue, scene painting, something that your team develops as like a solid opening for you. I feel like part of what's great about having multiple teams doing the same form is that you can watch each other and learn from each other, see those different openings, how those help people get into their set. Do they pull solid ideas from them? Is it stiff? Is it high energy? Is it fun? Is it playful? So let's use that flexibility in the openings to help define the character of your team style and approach. And let's watch each other and support each other and learn from each other. It's another great thing about structuring what form everyone will do is it's much easier to watch the other teams and like take in information from what they're doing, I think. It's hard when everyone's doing like a montage and every set's completely different. You're like, well, that's interesting, but that wouldn't work for the type of form we're doing. I think when you're doing a similar form as the team after you and before you, you can absorb from them and I think we grow together more quickly. And having different styles and approaches on the Herald, I think will heighten that. Let's see. So that takes me into show and house operations, like for the night of your show. Unless you guys have anything to add?
Just on that, like, I know you've talked about Imaginary Friends sticking with their format.
Oh, thank you.
Right, so like, it's not like, it'd be like, we're gonna be somewhat intense about it, but not super intense. It's really like if there's like a good reason, you know, that you can't do Herald, then I guess we won't do that. And if you feel strongly about it, then we can talk to Jen about it.
Yeah.
But
if you want to pitch something to me, I'd be open to it.
it's like the classic long form structure, so we should have lots of people here who are experienced with it, who are good at it. I hope it's exciting to people and that they want to do it. And I think that is a good decision.
Thank you for mentioning Imaginary Friends. Yes, so I feel like you guys have been working on a form that was developed for you, and because you've stayed together as a team, and you've only really had a couple months to work on it because we just did montage this last round, I completely support you continuing in your form. I'd be interested to see like where it goes. I don't want to like take that away from you. House operations. So promote your show before your show, right? Like it's so great to see like pictures of Conservatory Night up on Facebook or whatever like social media you use to hype the event. Having a strong audience here helps the show so much. Feels really good to play to like full house. So I would say get excited about that, get involved in that with each other. Maybe have a designated social media person, which I think a lot of teams already have. And maybe ask those other teams like what has worked, you know what I mean? Like what was fun for them to do to promote. Call time should, if you're in the first set, 30 minutes before the show. If you're not in the first set, but you're second or third, please just be there by showtime so that you can be there to support the other teams. We'd like to make a small shift in hosting, which is let's tend to ask someone from the third team to host the night. I think we've been doing the first team. Let's shift it to the third team for hosting. Also, if there's anyone that's like, I really want to be a host, like I'm like think I'd be good and it's something that I want to develop, or like I'm working on stand-up and I think that would help me with my confidence and that type of thing, or it just would be exciting to you, let me know. I'm completely open to the idea of people hosting. We're also very interested in making a shift where hosts are people who have shows coming up in the theater soon that they would like to promote. It can be a really good way to have a fun bit or like just a short little quick thing in between each show, and then get to mention your show and something that you think the crowd might be excited about your show coming up that next week. So keep that in mind. Of course, warm up together before your set. Choose your intro music. Let house management know what it is so that they can cue it up for your entrance. Our performances will be blacked out. You will get a red warning light from up in the booth at 20 minutes from the tech, and then you will be blacked out at 22 minutes up to 25. If you hit 25 minutes, that's like a hard blackout. You have to wait for the perfect moment. But in between 22 and 25, the techs will be working with you to try to find a really great out for your show. And then again, just support each other by watching the other shows that night. I feel like it's a big part of this program. I think we continue to recommend, I know Richard is a big proponent of watching each other's shows before you get notes at the end of the night. If your team can do that, I think that's really great support to watch the other teams and then everyone get notes at the end. But please do get notes that night after the show. Please don't do them off video or a few days later. There's something about having them fresh. People remember things that I don't think they would remember if you wait a couple days. Something about that. You still have the feel of the show in your body, and it's easier to connect about it and describe how you're feeling to the coach and have them connect with you about it. So that's kind of all the operational stuff I wanted to touch on, and then just say some words on like, what this program means to us.
Yeah, so like I said, we're 13 months old now, and when the first few rounds rolled through, the question that I got constantly was, what's next? Right? I made it to the conservatory, like, what's next? And I think more than ever, we really want to kind of squash that thought process. The conservatory is a destination. And like I said at the beginning of this meeting, like, if you've been to a conservatory Tuesday night, you get it, you understand it. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal to like be in this room, be part of the program, to be performing on Tuesday nights when the crowds have been upwards of 40, right? 40, 50 people on a Tuesday night in Baltimore. It's a big deal. In fact, when we did first start it, there were people that said like, that it won't work. Like, this is Baltimore, it doesn't work. And like, we built it up, and now it is something really, really special. It's really important. And so we want to shift away from this idea of like, what's next, because this is a destination. You guys, you're here, it's a big deal. You should be really, really excited about that. We also are thinking pretty seriously about moving away from the 4-month model and moving to a 6-month model. Possibly even something even more prolonged than that. The idea is that this is an ongoing program. We don't want people to start thinking about conservatory in terms of rounds anymore, as though like, I get in January, February, March, April, so in April what happens to me? You are in this program as long as you want to be in this program. Again, like, we want you to like feel excited about that. We want you to take some ownership of that and be really, really excited. And the idea of pushing for longer terms is just to help build up group mind teams, give you more time to practice a format, to get to know each other, to find a great coach who understands your style and can work with you. And that's a big part of why we don't want you thinking about what's next. We want you thinking about this and how great this is. Teams may stay together. If we do go 6 months, if we do go 8 months, like from round to round, teams may stay together. And again, that's going to be a decision that's based on the team's preferences and the AD's preferences. Just be aware that that might be something that happens too. More teams might get to stay together. And they might get broken up. I mean, that could happen too. Like, it's all about how it benefits the theater and how it benefits the players on the teams. If you were at the last conservatory meeting. You remember us saying we're learning and we're growing. It's still true. It's always going to be true, I think. We're learning and we're growing. So just be prepared that like we would love to see teams like grow to the point of being like great teams. We can put on other nights beyond Tuesdays. Maybe that means a weekend slot. Maybe it means like a Wednesday slot. But we would love to like see teams develop to that level where we want you performing on multiple nights every week. Yeah, is that it?
So,
Oh, well, this part too. Right. So you might get asked to play in with other teams, just as a matter of playing in with them. Right? Like, that's something that Terry talked about a few months ago, where you are not beholden to like any one team all the time. If you want to play on different teams, and you get that invite from any other team, take it, but don't necessarily read so much into it. Think of it as an opportunity. Think of it as a really fun experience to maybe play with new people, play with people you admire, but don't necessarily read into it. It's sort of a new protocol. And then if out of that, a team does ask you to join up and leave your conservatory team behind, let's make sure that the AD knows all about that from the very beginning. At the very beginning, let's make sure that AD knows that you have been asked to join another team. And let's just keep all that clear and on the radar for everyone. So we're all in the know, and so feelings don't get hurt. Let's just make sure AD knows all about it. AD knows all about it. The AD. Oh, AD needs hey, if you're new to conservatory, you cannot get pulled out in the first round, whether that's 4 months or 6 months. You're in conservatory for a while, and that's a great thing. So enjoy that. And hey, if you do get asked to join another team, you should still be practicing with your conservatory team. We're going to ask that you double down and practice with 2 teams simultaneously. Again, if that happens, make sure the AD knows, make sure your teammates know, just to keep everyone on the same page. If you get asked to join another team, tell your teammates, and tell them at a time that's appropriate. Tell them at a time when it's not going to make them feel bad, or sad, or mad. Don't tell them right before a show, for example. It's just pulling that one out of the air. Don't tell them right before a show that you're not staying on the team with them. Tell them over dinner. Get together for a big family-style dinner and tell them that. Make sure they know. Guys, you're in conservatory. It's a big fucking deal. Nice job. You will take your improv game to the next level. What more could you want? That's an amazing thing.
Cool. So yeah, I'm really excited about this thing where people sit in on shows. I feel like we talked a little bit about at the alt theater meeting about wanting more overlap between different nights and newer people newer to the theater and older to the theater. And I like the idea that like at any point if the team on Friday or Saturday needs someone to sit in, that they could shout out and say, hey, whoever, this person, would you sit in with us tonight? I love that. I think that's going to be really fun. I hope that happens a lot. And I hope we support each other when someone's jumping in with Gus or jumping in with Lecker or whoever. I think that'll be a really fun way to like cross over. So regarding scheduling, I sort of just did a quick schedule through March because I thought people kind of need to know. It's nice to know ahead. So if you're wondering, as of now, February 20th is Team A, Imaginary Friends and Nature's Dirt. The 27th is Team B, C and D. And then going March 6th, we'll start to mix it up a little. March 6th I have Team A, Team B, and Nature's Dirt. The 13th I have C, D, and Imaginary Friends. The 20th I have B, A, and Nature's Dirt. And the 27th, D, C, and Imaginary Friends. So there's some mixing up there, and one thing that we want to change this time around is we are going to be slightly more specific, eventually, with the slotting. We want to try to develop a night where teams that are really doing well and growing and are feeling like this grapefruit mind and good energy with each other will start to close out the night, right? So it's a way of us all communicating with each other and saying, this feels really good, what's happening here. We'd like the other teams the opportunity to see it. We'd like to let that team close out the evening. It's not like a huge deal. It's not like something to get in your heads about. It's just something that if we start to feel it happening, I'd like to sort of accentuate by saying, hey, you guys had a great month last month. I'd like for you to have the anchor slot this month. So the way that I send the teams out to you will be in those designated slots. Obviously, scheduling issues may come up, things may shift around as need be. Sometimes I think teams, if someone's running late, you'll offer to switch with each other. That's still okay to do, especially in the first slots. Try to keep the anchor slot in the anchor slot, but if something comes up and you can't, and people need to switch, that's fine. As of now, the first month, it's not really a system that's in place. I just by default put the teams that stay together in those slots for the first month, and it'll be something we start looking to do in April, May, moving forward. And then, Terry, you just wanted to talk a little bit about supporting each other and loving each other.
Sure, yeah. About like the team element of this, and as we were going through it, I made just 2 or 3 notes of things that I thought were important as it relates to this. So I'm going to do this first, then I'll get into the heart of what I wanted to say. Early on, we were talking about what the aim of the program is, and we also talked about how should you think about the program in terms of big, right? And so I see the conservatory as being, for me personally, when I think about the company and where the company's headed, I see it as being on the cutting edge of what we're doing, right? We're changing. Theater is changing, the company's changing, and the engine of that change are these teams, right? It's a big deal. It's not a joke to say it's a big deal within this very small deal of this company. In this small, unimportant company, this is very important, right? Outside of it, it doesn't matter. But inside the company, it matters a lot. So we should, recognize that. And if you're part of something that's uniquely important, and we're trying to cement in or imprint within you guys what we think are good best practices for improv and the pursuit of improv. And that's really what we want, is we want to, I think it's less about how good is your improv, right? And more about how much do you mean it? How much do you mean you want to do it, right? And these practices are there for that purpose. And I feel like it's integral to successful improv theater. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be these practices, but there need to be practices like these for the improv theater to do well. I just think that that's extremely important. Jen was talking about attending things, and I don't know, it's up to Jen, but I think we've been talking about in general, when it comes to practices and shows, you should be hitting about 75% of those, right? You should be at 4 practices, you should make at least 3. If you miss 2 one month, I hope you make all of them the next month. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're not really doing it. And so you can't really do it because you're not doing it. Right? It's just sort of just being honest about what's happening. It's kind of like a diet. If you eat a bunch of donuts, you're not on a diet, right? And so if you're missing a bunch of practices or shows, you're not really on that improv team. You're not really doing the thing that we're trying to have you do. Okay, cool. We talked a little bit about, I don't know if this is important or not, but I spoke a little bit about what's happening because I see you guys as the cutting edge, right? So I always get tense whenever one of you has to play with one of the other teams, right? I get really tense about it. I like drink coffee, and I think about it a lot, I talk to a lot of people about it. And part of what makes me tense about it is like this thing about the amount of practices that have been happening previously, right? Before someone joins the team. So I just want you guys to know, like, if the team comes to you, it's like, I want you to practice with me. Just be like, right? That's like them offering you candy. Don't do it. Don't follow them into those practices because you might have classes, you might have another team, you might have another practice that you're doing that's worthwhile. You know, it's a worthwhile thing. Do that thing. And they offer you slot, then okay, all bets are off, go join. You know, like that's cool. Also, I just think it's like cool if like a team doesn't want you on their team, but does want to play with you one night. I think that that's cool. So it's just like, it should be breezy. You know what I mean? So it should be breezy. That's how it feels when we get the cast together for big time. I just email some random people, and they normally agree to come and do the show, and then that's the cast, right? So it's like okay for that to happen 1 week. It doesn't mean anything. All right, great. Okay, so in terms of the experience itself, I really want to emphasize how team-based this is. And it's more than just your team, it's the entire community, right? It's the team, it's not you, you know? I've heard some things that have made me sad and scared that have been status-oriented in the conservatory program, right? It's important that we realize that compared to someone, we're fantastic. And compared to someone else, we are awful. And that is true for everybody in this theater. There is no one here who is the worst. There is no one here who is the best. That's just the truth. There is no one here who's close to being the worst. And there is no one here who's close to being the best. It is a pointless thing to think about. And it is destructive. And I would ask you, I would ask you strongly ask you to fight against the impulse to evaluate your teammates. To think, here's something that's off about my teammate. Here's something I can fix about the teammate. Here's something I need to talk to my teammate about if they're so bad at it. Right? Don't do that. Don't do that. Leave that to the coach. The coach is there for you. If you think there's something off about your teammate, there's something off about you. You know what I mean? It's you. It's not your teammate. It's you. The idea is we make our teammates look good. We make them look good. Not we fix them. Not we go to scenes to save their scenes. Not we talk to other people about how our teammates are hurting us. Not that. Or note them. Certainly not note them. Yeah. Please try to avoid that. Please, please, please try to avoid that. And more than just like try to avoid the physical description of it occurring, try to avoid it in your heart if you can. Try to celebrate and honor and embrace your teammates as artists fully. That's where this comes from. That's where the art comes from. That's where Yes And comes from. Right? It's very granola. It's very 1960s. This is it. This is what we're doing. Right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to do something like that. It's not about being better than anybody else. It's not about being on a team that's better than some other team. It's not. It is about trying to do our best. Right? It's about that. It's about trying to do our best. So it's okay to like sort of like look at someone and go, I don't know how they're so good. I don't know how they're so good at that. That's okay, right? But I just don't think we need the status orientation. We don't need it individually, on the teams that we're on, comparing our theater to other theaters. Who cares? It couldn't be less important. It could not be less important. It won't help you get better at improv. It doesn't help. You know, it doesn't help to find someone worse than you and be like, that person's worse than me. So what? So what? You know? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if someone's better than you. It doesn't matter if someone's worse than you. You know, that's just the way it is. Great. I think I said the whole thing. Everything I wanted to say. There it was. I did it all. Thank you for listening.
Up to any questions that you have. And we'll wrap up.
Who is everybody? I wonder who everybody is.
Yeah, let me know.
Didn't you hear, Terry? No, I want to say my name.
You want to say your name?
Yeah, I want to say our name.
Okay. Richard, our facilities manager, has asked everyone to go around and say their name.
Richard Team D.
Stand up too.
Richard Team D.
I'm Brian. I'm one of my imaginary friends.
Okay, I'm Sam, and I'm Team C.
I'm Jess, I'm Team C.
I'm Tavish. I'm unaffiliated,
But an available coach.
but an available coach.
I'm Gorn, Team A.
I'm Tashika, and I forgot my team.
I'm Josh. I'm Team A.
I'm Scott. I'm on Imaginary Friends.
Stand up.
Stand up, Scott.
No.
Scott will do it. Scott will do it.
I'm Allison, I'm on Team D.
I'm Michael, Team D.
I'm Juan, Team B.
I'm Hannah, Team D. Julia, Team A. Cherie, Team D.
Jake, Richard Team A.
Karen, Imaginary Friends. Kate, Team
I just stopped standing.
I'm Andy, Team D.
B. Hey, I'm Sharon, Team C.
I think it goes by classes.
I'm Rashid. I'm not on the conservatory team, but I've been in big for 5 years, so I am that bitch.
Also available to coach.
And I'm also available.
Yeah.
Also, catch Ashton every Saturday.
Team B.
Jason, unaffiliated, available coach. That's all. My name is Brandon. Imaginary friends.
Hey, I'm Talia, Team A.
I'm Dante, Team C.
I'm Jennifer, Team C.
Jeffrey, Team E.
David, Team D.
Ryan, Nature's Derek. Justin, unaffiliated and available coach. Balthazar, another critic from, and I'm an available coach. Spencer, Team D.
Nadia, Nature Fair.
Sean, Team B.
Yeah, I'm not affiliated with anything. And I can coach.
Scott, Nature's Dirt. I'm Devin, Team D.
I'm David. I'm Team C.
Jenny, Team B.
Bobby, Team C.
Kyle, Team C. Get them all
You
punched
happy
in
with
your
that,
phone? Last year, Scott.
Good, so any questions, so that we all met? Yes, Brian?
Would it be awkward if I were to ask, now that we have more people, if there's still a discount on classes?
Yes, same thing.
Okay.
Super
I
awkward.
didn't know if it suddenly became a business decision.
I don't know. Maybe. I think there is. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not. I think so. I think it exists.
When it came to playing in, Mike mentioned that if a team actually wants to play in, that they have to have both practices. But if there's a conflict in the practices, like let's say the team is actually play in, practice at the same time as their conservatory team. Like what is the protocol on what they should do in that situation?
Doing answer that because I also want to touch on this too. Yes, the discount's going to exist, but some things happened this last week, which is great. It's really awesome. A lot of you guys took classes, which is great. But we don't want to we need those classes, right? We need the money. So we got to be a little smart about how many people do it in one class, right? So we're going to have slots. There'll be an amount of classes for interns, an amount of classes for players, and then if a class doesn't fill up a couple days before it's about to go live, then as many of you want to jump in with the discount as possible. Go ahead. In 1 second, then Jason, I think what we're saying is, you just, look, here's the thing. You guys are all great improvisers, and I know that, right? And we all know that. And teams are going to want to add you, and they don't need you to practice with them to do it. So they can't have you to practice. They can't. So it's just, there is no conflict with which practice do you go to, which show do you do. They can't have you then. But they can have you perform with them, and they can have you perform with them 12 times if they want to. You know what I mean? That's fun. That's a fun thing to get to do an improv show. I think an improv practice is hard. And it's hard, I think, to also know you're going into it to be evaluated. No one gets invited to an improv practice just because they're like, I wonder what it'd be like to have Craig at improv practice. Do you know what I mean? But maybe that happens with the show. That could be a fun thing to do with someone in the show. Just like, I don't need another person on my team, but gosh, I've seen this person killing it at the conservatory. I want to do some shows with them. So I just think it's a breezier, more fun way to do it. You don't need to worry about the practices. That's the policy switch. Maybe that's like a crazy policy switch. We'll have to change it, but I think it'll be okay. We'll see.
Yeah, we're just now shifting into it, so we'll feel it out. But I think to be a Dante person that
When it comes to classes, will there be an announcement on the time and date of when registration begins?
Yes. There always has been. I think it's a matter of like, if you're on the email list, I try to hit the email list, I try to hit the Facebook pages, and then they're up. Classes are hot, they're hot, and that's a great thing, but it also means people need to scramble. I know there's at least one person I heard that has Google alerts when they send an email, so they can know when those classes come out. Maybe you should Google alert people. I don't know. But they fill up fast. You guys know, it's been a tidal wave the last few rounds, and they fill up fast, and there's only so much space. So,
That's 2 questions. The first question is, what are the workshops Roy, Michael, and Jason will be?
So that I don't know. I did specify with Kate. Her suggestions are what she's offering, and I'm sure she's open to teaching other things. I didn't specify with Roy and Mike. I just know that they are very interested in doing one-off, working with teams on something, and I feel like they both bring different things that could help balance the team in different ways. So, so if you're looking for it, just check in with them.
I don't know that Jason said he wanted to teach me workshops. I just said we should put Jason's name on that because I think he's a great coach. And you should just think of Jason as a coach. So there's a little misrepresentation. Sorry, Jason.
It's the best workshop.
and I'm offering the second best workshop.
It's still pretty good.
My second question is about, you said that to find a coach, give me a second.
Sure.
You said we're moving the game, you want us to have a confidence and attacking attitude. And then, while we're looking for a coach, we have to capture the performance. And what is the style of our team? And when we're working with that coach, we have to use them as a guide, and they're going to guide us with their vision. And,
so you're wondering how that overlaps, maybe your own style.
And now we want different styles, but we're all doing the Herald.
Yes.
So my question is that even though we're all going to be doing the Herald, and we're going to be looking for a coach, and we want to match our style with this coach, when we're trying to form this relationship with the coach, should we be critical of what we're doing and use their feedback to try to create a whole, or use their vision to create us as a whole?
So I think that it's both. I think that a team grows into a certain style. I think that it happens over time, so maybe it's hard to hit the ground running with a perfect match coach where you're like, you know, we just met, we are this style of improv. I think it kind of evolves. It depends on who's on your team. It sort of happens after you've been practicing together and you start to develop that group mind. So I feel like that's a process. But I think your coach can recognize it and start to recognize it early on. I mean, I think I had one coaching session with Hostel and I was like, I think you guys play this way. And they were like, that's what we think. And then we like leaned into that, you know what I mean? So that's what you're looking for, is for the coach to be that outside perspective who's with you a lot and starts to pick up on, you know, I noticed you guys like to play, lean towards characters. I noticed you guys like to do really physical stuff. And have them pull that out of you, and then have them, so you guys, it's coming from the players, and you're creating it as a group, and the coach is yes-anding it, right? The coach is saying, I'm seeing this style in you, I want to heighten it, all while playing game, right? So we want to play game, we want to do heralds, but we want those heralds to feel unique, and we want each team to have their own voice within it. Does that make sense? Does that help at all? Great. I don't remember who was next, but, okay, good.
No, with the move towards game, are the next round of classes going to be more game-based? And then will there be a chance for those currently in conservatory to maybe get a jump on either workshops or those classes? Since that's where the focus of conservatory is moving.
Yeah, so the next round of classes, which is coming up in March and April, we are going to do 22 intro to game classes, and that's it. We are, you know, it's like a subtle shift. Yeah, no, we're looking at the curriculum and we're trying to punch in, even like all the way back to 101. We want to start to lay the groundwork for the possibility of game. And of course, you know, every level thereafter is going to be a little bit heavier-handed with bringing game in. But yeah, I mean, at this point, right, like you're an advanced level improviser. So the upper level classes that you'd be interested in are probably going to either focus on game in some capacity, or they're going to be format focused. And I imagine even the format focus, you know, game can be folded in as you or as the teacher sees fit. It's game everywhere. Yeah. And there was a second part of your question, which I forgot. What was it? A jump start. A jump start. I mean, we're going to keep bringing workshops in.
Yeah.
And the big community always gets first dibs on this. So that, you know, kind of like Dante's question, we can put them out there and you can get Google alerts to jump on them as fast as you can. It's kind of the best we can do.
But, you know, I mean, it's interesting, right? Like we just had Eric in, and, you know, I played with him that night. He was really funny. And I had never played with Eric before. I just had seen him perform, and I wanted I think musical improv is something that we could do more of here, so I wanted to bring him in to do that. And then the way he played was really, it's just like very funny, a little dirty. That's how he played. It was very funny, and it was surprising. I would have liked to have taken a workshop from him, but it didn't fill up that fast, right? We've got Keisha this weekend, and that's full now, but it didn't fill up that fast. We're going to have Molly Thomas come in early March. She's great, and I hope that fills up fast. And she'll do 2 workshops. She's great, you know, and the way she approaches things is very different than anyone who's here right now. And we're going to keep doing that, right? We're using the performance, the performer development line in the budget to underwrite those, right? And we can do it kind of non-stop, except that when the workshops don't fill up, that line will eventually deplete and we'll have to stop. So like, fill those workshops up fast, we can even maybe pick up pace and have more of those. It's $25 for a really great workshop. I think it's a steal in any market. And you know, I know a lot of people who can just get them in the bus down here. It'll be easy. And you know, so like that, I think is a great way to think about that. About how do I get at it a little bit more? Because each person who's here who's talking about this stuff, even though the advantage of game, I think, is that there's like a common vernacular and approach that we can all kind of figure out, and after you get good enough at it, you can just like go into a room with someone and be like, what's this sketch you want to write, what's the game? And the person knows what you're talking about, and you can kind of work together really easy, right? Same thing in your improv, same thing, right? That's the advantage of it. But you know, everyone gets to it a little bit differently. The way I get to it might be different than someone else. So like having a wide, as broad a diversity of people describing it to you, their approach, may make all the difference. But you can take like 9 classes with me and then 1 class with Molly, it might be all you need. You can be like, oh yeah, Terry's an idiot. You're done. All right, cool.
But I just want to go back to this point real quick. So the opportunities are going to be there. It's just a matter of we need people to take advantage of those opportunities. And this has sort of been a recurring theme for the last year now, where we're working to bring people in. And when the names are really like big improv famous names, they sell out. We've had some workshops in the last few months sell out in under 20 minutes. But then Eric Gersten comes around and his workshops don't sell out. Eric Gersten.
You guys really insulted Eric Gersten.
Well, hang on. I'm joking about this, but this is part of what I wanted to say too. Is like we also we want to build a reputation for all these visiting improvisers and teachers that makes them excited about coming here. You know, so they know there's like this thriving, fun community and these hungry improvisers, so people want to keep coming back too. So the opportunities will be there, but we need you guys to jump on them when they show up.
Shakespeare's sonnet of improv, and there is a structure within it, there's absolute freedom, great from the beginning to get everybody on the same page, with the points of departure, and there's the vocabulary, get everybody in the same world. What you were saying, and I just wanted to reiterate that, is that as we evolve into our journey and find our group and our dynamic as a truth, so are we, and we find that maybe the Herald is perhaps not the best fit for that, is that can that evolve into other, like you said, that can evolve into another structure, or once that it's going to be within the Herald all the
I'm leaning towards wanting us conservatory to stay in the Herald. But if your team is starting to feel like you want to break out of it, there's something else that could better serve what you're doing, and that focus does still allow for gameplay, second meeting, heightening, I'd be open to it. What I would rather see is to keep the Herald, but break it. Do you know what I mean? Like reinvent it. Like force the Herald to fit what you want to do. Blend your second scenes together. Do a Herald mono scene. Or you know what I mean? Like, I would lean towards favoring that, but I would be open to it.
Can I tag on to that? I think what Jen's saying is, like, if you mastered the Herald and then you wanted to do deconstruction, I don't think Jen would stand in your way for a second, right? I would be surprised if that happened this year. You know, from any team, I'd be really surprised. I'd be delighted. And I also would be surprised if you did that, if you wanted to get away from it. So I think you'd probably be thrilled. You know, I think it'd be like this awesome thing you had. If you felt like it was hard and you wanted to get away from that, I think that's where like maybe there's a line, right?
Yeah,
that's why Jen.
That's not the ladder.
Yeah. So I would say for everybody, not just for you, Kate. That's why the 25-minute blackouts there, right? Because those third beats at times are terrifying when you're out of stuff. You got to stretch into that, and you got to start realizing that, it doesn't stop, right? Like a big complaint from Chicago improvisers when they come to New York is that New York Heralds are 25 minutes, and they're like, it should be 45 minutes. It's just too fast. So like it's a cool form, and it's a very flexible form. So when Jen talks about breaking it, it's like there's so many cool stories about the Herald and about openings. I was so excited the first time I saw Nature's Dirt to a pattern game, because when I was taking classes, when I took my 401 class, my teacher at the time, Mike Delaney, would tell us, probably for too long in the class, waste class time, telling us that all openings came from the pattern game. And that, like, you know, the organic opening, really a pattern game is an organic opening, Sound of Movement, documentary, scene painting, all came from the pattern game. All came from people being like, you say a word, I'll say a word, your word made me think of, but I'm also going to yes and you. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a documentary, or you find yourself doing scene painting, or you find yourself doing a structured game to an opening. That's happening throughout the Harold. So like it's a very flexible, very powerful form, I think. And you know, so like I think there's a lot there for you.
Can I tag on to that too?
Hang on.
Jen used the term twice. I just want to reassure everyone who isn't quite familiar with the vernacular of heralds yet. She used the term second beating. I just want to make sure everyone knows Joan is going to be harmed, injured physically. You did. You said second beating.
Yeah.
And it was an excuse to make
that
joke.
was your first beating. Yeah. That was your first beating.
Oh, we did so
So I like the idea that we get to kind of play in with no real commitment, or just for fun and kids.
Yeah.
But one thing that I noticed that you guys said, that you said at a lot of the introductions to the conservatory session, is that newbies or folks who are just entering will not be picked up or not be able to move on. And that's not been the case each time. And I think that this new opportunity to play in at will might blur that even more. So I wonder if you guys have thought about how to safeguard against that and prevent that from disrupting the team.
Yes. So, you can jump into. So first, I want to clarify on it, just because you bringing it up again made me wonder if it was clear. So, people staying in for 4 months is only for people who have just joined, right? So if like you're a player that's been in previously, or you're on your team may be new, right? But somebody on a new team that has been in the conservatory for a year can still be moved up or like asked to sit in like right away. I think it's just a matter of us making very clear to the teams that are looking for new players that you can look at a new player, you can play with and ask to sit in a player, but they will continue rehearsing with their conservatory team and performing with their conservatory team for a full 4 months before they can be pulled into rehearsals. I think it's just a matter of clarifying it. I think it's just a
Well, I was kind of sharing truth before, because I think, I'll speak from example. In our earlier rounds in the Raj, we had a big problem with that, because people were being picked up like randomly throughout, and then even like the college round, it was happening.
Yeah, it's driving me crazy too. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that happened to you.
But I just feel like clarifying.
We really mean it this time. This time we fully mean it. We're all on board. We really mean it. I don't know that we really meant it before.
We're also growing and we're also learning.
Yeah, we're growing, we're learning. But this time we mean it. And then, but like, I mean, Brandon, just so you know, like sometimes it's devilish. Like sometimes these scenarios where it's like so and so, this and that. We were together in summer camp. We've been talking about this for 8 years. At a certain point, I'm just gonna go have a sandwich. Do you know what I mean? And they're gonna leave your team. Do you know? But like, I think this time we really mean it. I think for the new people, they will stay on those teams. Is that bad answer? I feel like it was a great answer.
You lost me with the summer camp sandwich.
I've been sad. I'll have a sandwich. That's what happened.
David was waiting for Jason. Is this on this
Yeah,
topic?
just to fully clarify, those who were in, I guess, weekend teams per se, and now the conservatory, are they still in that 4-month holding cell, or are they free to leave?
Second meetings, holding cells. It's a great program.
It's a great question. You know, I mean, here's what. Can I talk more about it? Okay. Yeah, so Samantha, at one point was asked, is it okay, Sam, if I talk about that? That you were asked to join a team?
Oh, yeah.
Is that okay? Great. Well, I allowed you already, so I just asked. Sam was asked to join a team when she was moving, and she was like, no, I want to do the conservatory. Right? I don't think we had talked about it so much then. I don't know what I would do if someone came to someone who's a senior player, and they were like, this is my good friend, I want them on my team. Probably, don't know. But I'll say this, I wish they'd stay, because we're really trying to build the future of our theater in this program. Like, that's what we're doing, that's what we're trying to do. And so like, if you skip by that, you know, I feel like that's too bad. You know, if you just jump over that, you know? So like, I'd rather us all do it together, explore this together, and learn together. That's my answer.
David.
This is not that important, but
Yeah.
so I was just wondering, like, it's okay if we're not able to take any classes this time while we're in conservatory. I can't tell like if it's a required thing.
Unrequired at all.
Okay.
So prior to conservatory, everyone being on the same, I don't want to say level, but yeah, the same level, there was a policy where we could audit classes at no charge. Is that still a policy, or, because someone mentioned discount earlier, so that led me to believe that auditing policy is null and void. So if there's some clarification on that, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, well, so the 50% discount is sort of what we moved to. I don't know, I think like a lot of, it's an improv class, so it's really active. I don't know that auditing an improv class, unless you're trying to be a teacher or to pick up some coaching tips maybe, it's hard. It's hard to just sit back and watch a class and audit it in the traditional sense. So we moved to that 50% off so biggies could actually like get in and be part of the class, participate, play, run the showcase. Auditing is still, sure, it'll still be an option, but I also want to check in with teachers and make sure that like, you know, the new teachers that we have, they're cool with it. And also I want to make sure that if a player is going to audit a class, they recognize exactly what that is in the traditional sense, which is you sit back and take notes and watch.
The workshops, especially out-of-town people, can we, you know, for planning purposes, expect them to be Sundays, Saturdays, a mix?
It depends on the schedule.
It's gonna depend, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Saturdays and Sundays, I think, are the goal.
But
We're
like,
shooting for Saturdays. It's tough, right? Because so many people are visiting.
right.
But right now we have 4 classes stacked on Sundays.
Yeah, I know, that's, yeah, there's.
Plus we have our intro workshops in the evenings. So Saturdays are better because there's more availability here. That's what we try to do, but we've had to shift to Sundays for availability purposes.
Because of that, that's why I was asking, because I knew the last few had been Sundays, so I didn't know if that was the new thing.
I try to get Sundays.
Okay, that's good, thanks.
So kind of back to what we were talking about before, but a different angle. In the last few rounds, it was the way going into another group is talked about was you playing with them, you do a couple of shows, and we're going to get rid of auditions to be in a house group. And I wonder, given the change of direction where you're not supposed to practice with another group as a priority, or who generally should just play with at that school, does auditions change? Or do you know anything about that at all?
Now, there's auditions for conservatory, and weekend teams pick from the conservatory.
Yeah, so that flow will stay consistent. Okay, it wasn't last year.
But if we do move to like a 6-month stint, that would affect possibly when and how frequently we do the auditions.
Yeah.
So my question is in reference to, you said the where you want the future of the theater to go is a game-oriented improv. So what is the plan for those senior troops who aren't necessarily doing it here? What is the plan? Because we've heard what the goal for the conservatory is. You said the destination is the engine that drives the ship. So what is the goal for those senior troops who might not be doing a game, or those weekend teams that might not be doing a game-oriented style of improv or a herald? Like, what is that? I think what I'm getting at is it doesn't seem transparent, and that can be upsetting.
I think it's definitely transparent. We talked about it at the last all-theater meeting. I mean, we want the teams to play a game, and we want to move the theater in the direction of game. Out of respect to the seniority of the weekend teams, who've been doing things for a long time and are in many ways excellent at improv, in using different methods, it's not as heavy-handed, right? The conservatory program is able to be more controlled because it's a new day. It's a new day in the conservatory program, right? It's like people are coming to big teams for the first time, right?
I understand that. My question is, it's a very specific question. What is your goal for those troops that are still on weekend teams if they're not doing the format? What is the consequence of the
I mean, I don't have an interest in changing the formats of the weekend teams at all. I would
that answers my
personally,
question.
that's it?
Yeah,
I
okay,
just
sorry.
personally would love to see the weekend teams lean more heavily into the style that defines their team. Find coaches that can bring out, help them rise to another level as well, just like we're trying to throughout the theater. So I think there's some shifting that's happening with coaching the coaches. I think game-based approaches could help like weekend teams get to another level in some cases. But yeah, I wouldn't ask weekend teams. Weekend teams are free to pick their format and do whatever fits them best. And just find a coach that helps them intensify and elevate their style and their approach.
Okay.
There's a tricky part to it though, because what if the weekend team's not doing well, and
that's fine. I understand if you
yeah.
have a barometer and that barometer is not met or your expectations are not met.
Yeah.
I think what the issue is that if you want us to all move, because you said we're all one big happy melting pot of a family food by God, hallelujah. If that's the goal, then that's cool. That's an awesome goal to have, and I think people want to buy into that goal. But if the expectation is not discussed or made clear, it's made clear to conservatory that they're the future, but there are troops that are not in conservatory. So in order to make sure everyone's on the same page,
I hope it's clear. I hope it's clear that we'd like the theater to move in this direction. That's as far as I'm willing to take it. With for example, a team like Gus that's been around, I think, since the beginning, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty good team.
It's a pretty good team. But they're like, I don't care. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. If they don't care, they don't care, and that's okay. I'd like them to care. I'd like them to care, and I think that it could benefit all the teams. But the teams can, I think that the senior teams can choose and chart their own course. I also think that there's, when we're saying this, we want to focus on game. That's because we want what we teach to feed into what we show, and so that you can feel like, I'm paying money for these classes for a reason. And it's not just I showed up and I was charismatic and I was going to be on a team no matter what. I mastered a thing, and then this led to the next thing, and it led to the next thing. We want there to be a big style of improv, right? That doesn't mean that if someone's I want to do legit dramatic improv that's not funny. I've got this idea, and we try it out, and it's popular. It's a different look at things. That could happen at the theater. It could happen, right? But there's space for that, or a sketch show, or anything else. Sorry, I'm talking so much. Yep. Sorry. Thank you so much. Next question. Sorry about that.
I think it's time for us to start.
All right, next show. We have one more question over here.
I think Hannah was
Hannah,
going to ask if you're going to have time to meet for any case.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. If there isn't one last quick question anyone needs to get in, I think this would be a great time to split into teams and get to know each other. Do you want to do spots? Like Team A, you want to do Team A over here? Team B over here? Team C? Team D?
We've got the dodgeball, so we'll get those out.
Inappropriate starting at 7.
Congratulations.
You have 5 minutes to talk. Get out, Just FYI.
Yeah, it was a solid ride. But it's just like, I lost time. Some of
Got it. I just saw Sunday. She was set up to do Chinese menu. We were going to snatch her. She was also really glad that bring all that knowledge back. And what team members do you have? I'm upset that you are learning about
I'm pretty sure that's I agree. Valentine's Day, before Valentine's Day will be here. So, no. Kim show won't actually go to work. So, then I gave up. Saturday. Saturday should be good enough. That's Sunday. I'm good to go.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah. Good to see you too. Congratulations, man.
I'm totally remember that.
I saw your name on there. So, what team are you on?
Team B.
Gotcha.
No. He's our liaison? Yeah. Aaron? It's cool. I am. And it's like, oh, damn, I'm glad I took that Harold class. Yeah, go for it. I just want to say that.
Cool. Congratulations.
Happy birthday.
Oh, no, the white, the black.
Okay, yeah, the black one.
Yeah, somewhere. You're here. I have like mine. Jim's
What's up, man? What's up, dude? How you doing? Good. Super busy, but good. We have rehearsal tonight for the Valentine's show. Okay. It's like the last one. So our show is on this Saturday and then the next Saturday. Oh, okay. So I'm like limping to this. It's gonna be this Saturday. Yeah. This Saturday, 8 o'clock, and then next Saturday. I will try to make it to this week. Yeah, cool. Definitely do. Hey, holy shit! It's like my worst nightmare. I know. And I know the mic is like always on, so I'm like, oh. We love you. About me. Hey. Good. I've been coming to this I have a real problem with it. I'm gonna grab Jen's ear, but I'll see you there. All right, man.
Yeah, I've been coming to this for the last month. Yeah, thanks for talking about Charm City, actually. I just heard they have a preview next week.
Oh, yeah.
So I was thinking about that, and I did the audition, but I was really rusty.
Just like dive right in.
Yeah.
Jesus, 2 years.
Yeah. But this has been great. This has been great. Jenny over here, she's actually from and so yeah, there's some like regulars who come for us. How about you? How are you?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah?
We just met our great team. Like 5th round.
And is it, are you changed every conservative?
Pretty much. It doesn't happen every time, but pretty much, yeah.
Okay, alright. And you like it?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Always new.
Yeah. How's work?
It's good. I'm at a new job.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing very similar stuff. Still climate change fighting.
Good. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, it's alright.
Okay.
How about you?
Good. Still with Outward Bound. I moved in with my girlfriend Liz.
Yeah, I met you guys the day you met. Or I met her the day you guys met.
Wait, at the show?
At Metro Gallery. Yeah, I was there.
That's right, yeah. So yeah, we moved in last year, living in Hammond, 37 Falls.
Oh, nice. My partner and I just moved in like 6 months ago.
Oh, cool. Yeah. It's been up and down. Like it's living with somebody, like issues that happen, but so far it's been great. And then I walk by your house, your old house sometimes, because I walk the dogs. It's right by the police house.
Free farms.
Yeah.
A bunch of the originals still live there. Well, one of the originals. He has my room.
Yeah, right. And the first one I had when I came to this.
That's so funny. I know where you live.
I heard that you had a great show last year. Yeah. I was trying to figure out if I could get to that because I knew it was like he was playing and then his
Training for
I'd never heard of that space before. You guys were racing?
Maybe it was. I mean, I guess. The group leader,
So, we only have a handful of troops tonight. So let's say that
Duos will get 5 to 7 minutes, and then teams will get like 10ish maybe if they're killing it, 11. And that's going to be it. If you haven't seen improv before, everything that is done here tonight is made up entirely on the spot with no script, maybe just a suggestion from you. Since we're a small crowd, let's make sure that we're really supportive of the people being vulnerable here on stage. And to get us started, our first troupe is going to be what is this? I think it says the smallest fish. But the second word is certainly fish.
There's no other fish names, right?
Socket? Does it say socket? Socket. You know, someone doesn't have the best handwriting, so my guess is it is socket fish. Give it up for socket fish! Hi guys, could we get a word, please? Any word at all.
Cereal.
Two. Cereal and two. Two? Yeah, 2 cereals. Two cereals. So much better now that we got rid of the kitchen table.
The money we made, I think we're doing good. Yeah, I mean, bowl, cereal.
2 cereals.
2 cereals plus, we have the 1 spoon, which, we'll have to trade off on.
2 cereals, 1 spoon.
Yeah. How do you feel about the 1 bowl situation too?
I mean, I think I'll eat this side, you eat that side.
Okay. Yeah.
Hopefully they don't intermingle, because I don't want Raisin Bran. I am totally on the Cookie Crisp train right now.
Okay.
So try not to get any of yours in them.
I think what we gotta do is, you get your cereal, I think I'm gonna pour it at the same time, and just let's make sure that, we respect the line.
So we want to do it on 3?
Yeah. 2.
Wait, you just said 2, 1.
Yeah.
I usually go 1, 2, 3. Maybe we do 3.
You always do this, you always do subtly, I don't know how to count, and I try, and
hey man, I'm trying to.
I'm counting.
Yeah, it's a little underhanded kind of way of telling you should really know how to count by now. I mean, you're an excellent speller, your grammar is fantastic, your handwriting is wonderful. It boggles my mind that you don't know how to count, man.
Welcome on the cookie train. All right. Yes, it is. You're now the prospector's apprentice. Man. All right, son. Now we have these 2 dual gas chambers that need to be filled up to 15 blocks each.
Okay, do I just this mound of cookies? Am I just gonna?
Yes, you need to make sure that there's exactly 15 in each. If you don't get exactly 15 in each, you will blow the engine and you will disrupt the order that we have to take all across the nation.
There's a fire in there. Do you have any gloves or anything? I'm trying to pick. I think I just put 50 cookies in there. I realize I have to pick out a ton of them.
Station.
All right, there it is. Here's the glove.
Thank you. All right.
So work fast.
I'm gonna grab 20. No. All right. I think we're at 14.
Are you sure? We need 15. In each. In each.
Okay, all right.
In both of them. 15 in both.
Wait, don't drop down.
Oh, Lord.
I finally got you, Mr. Cookie Dough Thief!
This is your man. You need to tell me what's going on.
What is going on?
I've been missing my cookie dough. You've been fooling your train with it, mister.
I thought these were regular cookies.
I'm here to collect my cookie dough.
You took it. God.
I don't care who took it. I just want to take it.
Yeah, half the engine must.
He's gonna get us. He's gonna report us to the proper authorities.
I'm gonna turn this boiler off.
Get us going.
Oh, we're gonna
came through the window that I happened to leave unlocked.
That's your fault.
Arguably. But then you crept into my cookie dough lair and stole all of it. You didn't stop at one, you took all of it, and I think that's excessive.
Cookie dough is so much better than cookies.
Of course it is.
I eat it all. Sorry. Every last bit of it. Which is why I'm in this delusional state where I'm dreaming about this man and his tray of cookies. I don't even know.
So tell me more about your addiction to cookie dough. When did you start using?
It started when I was 5. Mom would make cookies all the time. There's always that batter.
So your mother was a user too?
Of course. They're real sugar pushers. So she got me and my friends hooked. That's how I made friends. She would bring them over cookies.
Wow. Just a horrible influence.
Yeah, the batter is really what got us going. I mean, we couldn't. It got to the point where we were robbing people left and right just to get some of that.
So she would have you bring your friends over
Yeah.
and intentionally feed them cookies.
Yeah, it was probably around every day around 3:30 right after school.
How does that make you feel?
You know,
knowing your mother endangered you and your friends with cookies and milk every day.
I don't know. I go to my friend's house and they, mom's got carrots.
Oh, son, you brought your friends over. Oh my gosh, they're so fried. Oh, he's got cookie dough again.
Excellent.
Again.
That's what we got.
Yes. Eat the cookie dough. Oh, I'll give you more.
I love the raw stuff, as Sam said.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you $5 for more.
Oh, you keep your money, son. Don't worry about that. I don't want to take your money. Officer Samuel's been running around seeing if I've been soliciting my cookie dough again.
What's that mean?
Soliciting my cookie dough?
Well, did you send him his cookies?
What do you...
Mrs. H, are you trying to fatten us up?
No, just keep eating the cookie dough. Eat the cookie dough. So good. Eat the cookie dough.
So good. Can't stop eating it.
All right. Now, I was trying to sell the cookies.
You were trying to what?
Sell them. But now I've come up with an even better plan. I was going to make you into human cookies, but that image in my head just wasn't a kind thing. I couldn't do that to you.
I need more cookies.
So just stop eating the cookie dough. I'm sorry.
I'm getting low.
I can't. It's oh my God, it's so good.
Well, the cookie train hasn't been arriving lately. I don't know what's going on.
Again? Do we have to do that thing?
We probably have to do that thing again.
Alright, you guys want to have some more cookies? Yeah? Let's go to the room with no balance. Let's do this. You guys ready?
More cookies there?
Oh, we'll get cookies. It's gonna happen.
Now, when you hit that person that it's clearly past expiration date, that cookie axe is gonna break. It's just gonna crumble.
Yeah, the idea was good.
That's a good idea. These nerds Twizzler roasts, those would be really good though. Little
Yeah, I think as long as we can hold it and they don't start eating it, like how you can kind of get down there and try to eat the cookie. I like the imagery of everything. I just don't know if we had so much follow-through with the actual, like hurting and trying to kill people for money so we can get more cookies.
New thought just occurred to me. Remember when we were eating? There was they're on the beach all the time. We were having so much fun. There's just
Taffy.
Yeah.
Oh.
The taffy ropes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taffy, just shove it down their throats. They won't breathe. While they're not breathing, just get those wallets.
I'm a little nervous about why you're so murderous.
Oh, I feel like if there's candy involved, there's got to be death. It just goes hand in hand. Diabetes takes a long time, so I feel like if we just go ahead and just knock them down right there and there.
We're saving them from that slow, painful death where they lose a foot, and then they do get those cool wheelchairs at Walmart.
that's true, could we make one out of chocolate?
Okay, everyone, we are a non-profit organization and this show is free. And in order to keep it free, we need to make little donations into this plastic bear. This is $1 of my own money and it is going into the bear. If at any point, yes, Christine, thank you! Oh, big spend down. If at any point you want to put money in the bear, well, there's one point when you can do that, and that is the end of the show. And I'll be holding it on your way out the door to make you feel really guilty if you don't do it. Okay, coming up to the stage now, we have Mac and Tavish, which is me! Hi everyone, I'm Tavish.
I'm Mac.
We've been performing around the country together for the past 11 years, and we like to get a lot of inputs from the audience to set our scene. So let's start with these chairs. Mac, grab some chairs. Miss, where is this chair on the stage?
It's like facing this way, all the way up there.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sir in the back, where's this chair go?
Right here facing this way.
Great, okay. Awesome, Mac, take it away. Mac likes to make his own decisions about where the chairs go. And I do too, but only for one. And then this chair is right here. Mac, stand relative to the chair somewhere. And let's get a suggestion of any object.
Toothpaste.
Toothpaste. Great. I'm Tavish, he's Mac. This is toothpaste.
Hey, did you remember to pick up toothpaste?
I forgot.
You forgot?
I forgot to pick up toothpaste.
You actually got everything else on the list, but you didn't get toothpaste, and it's like the one thing we use every day.
I ran into Shelby at Riding.
Really?
She was right there in the dental hygiene aisle, and I couldn't, you know.
How was she? How's she?
Great. Just beautiful.
You think she would have stuck around if you were
You kind of had a bad breath. Would you mind?
Yeah, sorry, I would take care of it if we had some toothpaste. Sorry if I offended you.
You didn't offend me. It was just unpleasant. It's the difference between being offended and feeling unpleasant.
You think Shelby knew the difference between being offended and being unpleasant?
Yeah, I think she knew because it cheated on her. I think for her that offended her. I don't think it was just unpleasant. That's why we're not together anymore, Mac.
You told me Shelby cheated on you.
I wasn't dealing with it in a really healthy way at the time. I was projecting my flaws onto others. In fact, I got home and I thought, Mac didn't pick up toothpaste. Mac didn't pick up toothpaste. Even though it was me.
I always pick up toothpaste when it's my turn. So don't put that on me. Don't put your mistakes on me, okay? And don't put your mistakes on Shelby. It's not fair to her. It's not fair at all.
I told the landlord that you didn't pay the rent.
So you didn't pay the rent?
That's what I'm telling you. Also, you have bed bugs.
And I suppose I broke that chair?
Yes. You broke the chair, which is infested with bed bugs. You fucked up again.
You fucked it up. You can't keep putting these things on me.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
No, you're sorry. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You want to be a better roommate, but you have a hard time. You have a real hard time.
I'm a real piece
Your
of
mom
shit.
was an alcoholic.
I may have had a hard life, but that's no excuse for me to be so irresponsible.
No, it certainly isn't. It certainly isn't!
I think I need to see the therapist. What do you say to that?
I think that you tried and your insurance doesn't cover it.
I thought I was still on my parents' plan.
Your alcoholic mother canceled her plan after the Trump election.
I feel like that's a weird impetus to cancel your health care plan. I'm sorry, my health care plan. Where am I going now?
You're going out the door. You're gonna find some toothpaste for your roommate, who's a friend that deserves more than what you've been giving him. And also has really wretched breath. I mean, I have really wretched breath.
And I have bed bugs. I think I'm gonna go take care of them. Right?
Right, I think you are. Welcoming my co-host for the evening, Jen Diamond.
I'm sorry. Next up is the Middle West.
This actually is going to be a show about Tavish. I'm going to stand over here.
No. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Mini West. The Mini West. We're a bigger troop, we're smaller, so we're mini. And can we get a suggestion of, you do? Okay. Can we get a suggestion of an object that's bigger than a bread box and smaller than a smart card? Object that is bigger, so larger than a bread box. What?
A rocking chair.
A rocking chair. I think the clock needs to be wound again. Don't.
I did it last time.
You're right. I should go do it.
We'll get to it.
Eventually.
The mail has arrived.
I got it last time.
It's my turn now.
We'll get to it.
Eventually.
It actually wasn't my turn that time, I swear to God, it was his. I've been the one getting the mail every week for the last month and a half, you see? And it was driving me crazy to sit here with my brother while he just toiled away, me on my fake rocking chair.
Are my sister's a lying bitch. I was the one that wound the clock last time, not her, and I demand to know what time it is.
Wow, that would be something new and different that we haven't done before.
Every single day.
I love it so
Stephanie, look. I finished making a hat. I'm sorry that I ripped your old one. It was a total accident.
It wasn't an accident. She's so annoying, and I had to take it out on her somehow.
I wonder if it's time for my doctor's appointment yet. I wish I knew.
You'll get better. Eventually. I wonder if I'm also going to get that new rocking chair.
In the mail? Well, I guess you'll find out. Eventually.
I have to tell you something.
Do you?
I guess maybe not.
Good. Shut the hell up.
You disgust me. There. I said it.
Oh, we're laying it all on the table now?
That wasn't even the half of it!
I wish that someone else was my sister. I wish that something really bad would happen to you, maybe medically, and that you'd just leave.
The truth is, she's actually been a really good friend. She really helped me when I lost my job last year. She gave me a place to stay. She always lets me sit in Grim's rocking chair. But at this point, I felt like I had to double down.
That hurts. That you want me to die in such a...
I meant every word of it.
I guess I should be moving on then, if that's what you really want me disgusting excuse for.
Yeah. Why don't you move on to the next life and die?
I don't think we can ever come back from this.
God, no, I regret it so much.
If you just give me my hat, I'll look forever.
Then I knew if I ripped the hat, she'd have to stay.
And I knew if you gave me the hat, it really wouldn't mean anything because it's summertime now. It was really more of just a symbol, I guess. Yeah, that's it. It was just a symbol.
Oh no, no. Oh God, it's happening. I did it to her. I know I did. I jinxed it. Are you okay? It's your heart, isn't it? It's your heart.
What is choking?
The tuna salad.
What? I lied earlier. I didn't wish you were dead.
What?
I just get angry about really petty things. I do want to know what time it is, but not in a homicidal sort of way. That would be crazy.
That is crazy.
It's crazy.
I
It's
know.
crazy that we talk to each other this way. Because
Sometimes I pretend there's an audience watching us and I confess things to them.
sometimes I pretend Mother is in front of me and I confess things to her.
Sometimes I hear what sounds like sumo wrestlers fucking. All right, next up, coming to the stage, we have non-sexual. Spoiler alert, not true.
This is just the night of duos, isn't it? I know it. We're non-sexual, and could you just give us a word to get started?
Green.
Green?
Green.
Okay. Alright.
Alrighty.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
It's so hot in here.
Right?
I know.
It's like 96.95 degrees.
It's crazy.
Right?
It's like this building is a fever.
Oh God, the building has pneumonia.
We should get married here.
Yes. I really want to make all of our guests so uncomfortable.
I know. It's like everyone's had such interesting weddings. It's like, how can we really put ourselves on the map, you
Like
know?
having a hot ass wedding.
Yes. Like a sauna. Like, I wanted my grandma to, like, pass out.
Oh
you know?
yeah, I hope a bunch of diabetics show up.
Yeah.
They just like wear wool suits, and then they think that like it's too hot outside and rain around their neck. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That heat rash.
I know exactly about heat rash.
And I want the cake to melt.
Yeah. Let's have an ice cream cake.
And sherbet punch.
Yeah.
Just like an orange soup.
You have to wear coats inside because it's respectful to our religion.
Yeah. Get like a down feather filled coat.
Yeah.
With a ski mask.
Yeah, full on, no eye hole, just a sock over your
Sock. All over
Yeah.
the fucking faces.
That's the good stuff.
And this is a kid-friendly wedding because I want them to pass out too.
Yeah. The very old and the very young.
Everyone passes out at least twice.
If someone doesn't die tonight, I think our wedding was a failure.
I want every bridesmaid and 2 groomsmen to vomit in the heat.
Only 2 groups.
Only 2. We got 2 friends.
Yeah, so 100%. The 2 of them.
100% of the vomit.
Yeah.
And I want the priest. I want the priest to just drop dead.
Yeah, just a body count. So be like, call FEMA, there's been a disaster.
Anyway.
James and Denise are gonna just be fucking livid.
Yeah, and then our wedding invitation should just be like pop up with like flames.
Yeah. Welcome to hell.
And our registry should be hell.
Just like hellish items. Like yes.
Hellish, devilish items.
Devilish items.
Like power drills and coffee pots.
A bunch of deviled eggs.
Yes, only like deviled egg, like pre-made.
Yeah,
and then,
very
like,
old.
And then like kits to make deviled eggs. So like cartons of eggs.
Yeah.
And mayonnaise and relish. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a butter knife to cut the boiled eggs and scoop out. You know.
I know about
You know how to make deviled eggs. Everyone knows how to make deviled eggs. What they don't know how to do, they don't know how to eat deviled eggs in sweltering hot weddings.
That is why I love you.
I want to watch people like sweat so much it comes out of their nose while they're eating a deviled egg.
Yeah. I want to watch people just like their shirt just like changes colors. It's just like so good.
I want the alcoholics in the room to just sweat the alcohol that's left in their liver out.
They won't be alcoholics after they leave this wedding. It's a cleanse.
Yeah, it's the ultimate detox. Plus, you have to give us a gift.
Wow, that was a really
We went too insane this time.
Yeah, like what were we thinking? I wore a scuba suit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it said non-traditional dress acceptable, you know?
Yeah, so
I wore this mascot costume.
Yeah, it just got like really wild, like really quickly. Like I wasn't expecting that priest to like say what he said.
I know, it was like really, really anti-Semitic.
Yeah, like coming from a priest.
It's like, you can't say that, man.
You can't say that because we're getting married during Hanukkah.
Yeah, that's why, yeah.
And also because, like it's bad, like doubly bad.
Didn't Katie and Jeff are like bad friends? Like we shouldn't keep celebrating them? Katie's birthday party also was like a real shit show.
Yeah, and like their like home birth party was even more like bananas.
She wasn't even giving birth.
She hadn't even had a contraction.
No.
She was like her water was intact.
She just wanted us to watch her in a bath.
Which is gross. It was fucking gross. It was like mineral water too. It wasn't even like bath water. It was like, some lavender oil and like some rocks.
My whole body hurts right now.
My face wants an apology for the things that was done to it last night.
You know, we should just tell them, like, we're out.
We
We're
should
out in the
shoot
sick
them.
cold. We should kill them?
Not kill them, shoot them.
Oh, like in the legs.
Like in the toe.
Yeah.
We want them to walk, but not forget. And then we also don't want to go to prison for murder.
Yeah.
Just like, you know.
And it's like after everything we've been through with them, I mean.
A judge wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah, you'd be like, that's somehow with long-term self-defense.
Yeah.
Okay, next up coming to the stage, we have Cody, Rashid, and Juan. Cody, Rashid, and Juan.
Hello, we're Cody, Rashid, and Juan. I'm Cody.
I'm Juan.
I'm Rashid. Sweet. We need a suggestion.
Marbles.
Marbles!
So the private maneuver happens when the child swallows a marble.
It's a J shape. You guys start. You have rubber chicken? And you didn't bring me one? You know I love rubber chickens.
I consider it a toiletry, so it's not. Other people need ones that want their own toiletries. I like our hair.
I thought we were on that level, like, I'm sorry.
Next time I'm at the store, I'll get you one.
No, it's okay, I'll get my own now. I see.
I mean, it's just like a prescription. So it's like, it's got like a special dosage. You understand, right?
No.
I just need it for my own personal devices.
You mean extra loud squeaky?
Look, I've been feeling dry. And if you must know, I don't really want to get into this in your work, but I was feeling a bit dry and taut. So the chicken helps with my ailment. Hence being personal.
You're right.
Now it's not personal because I just told you. And you squeeze it out of me, no pun intended. So.
You're right. You're absolutely right not to get me one of those. That was a lot of information.
If you want one, I'll get you
no,
one.
no, I'll get the standard one. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's like
It's okay.
the CVS brand.
Yeah.
I have like HMO, so mine's a little bit different.
Costs more probably.
Well, yeah, it's an HMO. So what you do is you just.
Right at the belly button.
Now I feel uncomfortable like that's all you're looking at.
No, I'm just trying to get past
the chicken.
No, I feel like I made it awkward now.
Well, yeah, they did. Now I don't know how to say what what I said.
We can just forget about what you said.
Can't forget about my prescription. You know that.
I already forgot about it. I'm already on the CVS. You got it at CVS, right?
Actually, yes.
Yeah, we both got it at CVS. That's where we get them. There's no need for a special list.
So now you don't believe my ailment.
No, I wasn't saying that at all. No, I just want to be supportive with you.
We're gonna get this dead body and put it in the dumpster. You're gonna get this dead. Who the fuck are you?
I just came out for a smoke, man.
Huh?
I just came out for a smoke.
You don't remember a fucking thing that just went down.
He dropped his leg. He dropped his leg. He dropped his leg.
Hey!
Drop his fucking leg.
Hey! Don't you ain't see no leg, did you?
We're gonna have to stab him. We're gonna have to stab him.
Some nice stars out tonight.
You want to stab him?
No stabbing anybody. No stabbing anybody. There's just nice stars out
How could you not forget it? Huh?
What'd you ask me?
Always good.
We're gonna have to kill him and his co-workers. We're behind the fucking Dairy Queen in the town square. Everyone saw us.
You're the one who wouldn't do the operation in broad daylight.
What do you want to get rid of the body?
I just want to interject. That was a very poor choice of murder locations.
We didn't murder him. We just bring him to this dumpster.
Yeah.
That's again, poor choice of accomplishing.
You got a point.
I don't need his point. I need his lips.
Come on, then, let's put this body in. Let's get that one. Come on. Hey, you slacking.
Hey, you know that's not going to be taken out till Tuesday.
I feel like you give it your all. We just kind of just.
Yeah, my back hurts a little bit, man. Come
It's
on,
not really
relax.
in the dumpster though. It's just.
Did you put the rest in?
I mean,
what?
My back hurts. You put the rest in. Put the rest
I
in.
always put the rest in. You always do a halfway job when I have to like stuff a body in it.
It's okay.
I don't really want to get involved, but I'm trying to help you.
Help him out. Help him out.
I don't know the accomplice, but
You're not an accomplice. You didn't kill him.
Yeah, help him out.
I mean, that's.
Look, your job is customer service. This is Dairy Queen. Your job is to serve. Whether it's ice cream or dead body removal.
I mean,
You know what I do?
I'm trying to serve you, sir. Just being very, very not helpful. You should probably take him back into the woods, and then the fox will drag him off. That's
a bad idea.
Tuesday.
That's a bad idea.
It's Friday, sir. It's not. It's all weekend. It's going to sit there. People are going to come and they're going to dump in there. They're going to see it. The cops are going to come. Just throw it in the bushes. Just throw it. I'm just
But it's
saying.
a dumpster. We get that. And last time the foxes brought the dead body to the police station.
The foxes are real good Samaritans over here. They say they put out fires, they deliver mail, they retrieve bodies and reunite them with their missing family members.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Pretty good story.
Why don't you mention this as ice cream? Okay? Hi, sir. I like a double scoop, of Pringles. But don't put it on the cone, just put it in this dumpster with the ice cream wing with the sprinkles in a dumpster.
You got this. You got this.
I do want to be a good employee.
Get the face.
Why does he have to be 300?
Why do I gotta look at it? Can I just help you?
You just gotta put your fingers in his nose and lift him.
Don't tell. I'm trying to help you.
Put your fingers in his ear.
Stop trying to tell me. Put your fingers in the I'm trying to do it.
I feel like it took me a lot to come here and help you. Now
Take
you're
your 3 fingers and put it down his mouth.
This is
Pull him up.
Stop. Hey, what's up with you today? What's up with you today?
I want this done. I'm sick of it. I'm just sick of this body.
Just come on.
I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to tell you about the dumpster. I'm trying to pick it up. And everything's a problem with you.
Well, you've been.
Oh, it's back now. I'm not paying for that.
Somebody call a fox.
Alright, we got 2 more. Next up we have Devin, Juan, Dante, Rashid. Is that right?
It's only me and
And Juan.
It's only me and Rashid, yeah.
So I wrote everyone else's names down, and I didn't realize that they all have conservatory practice. So they're not here because they're practicing. But we're gonna do a duo. But so I need like a non-geographic location,
Cemetery.
and then I need a non-romantic relationship.
Father, son.
And then I need a non-employee boss relationship.
Umpire, player.
Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be a doozy. I didn't see this one coming.
Say it was a heart attack.
Yeah,
They got him looking real nice in his casket.
yeah, I did nice, didn't I?
Sure did.
Yeah. Pretty funny, man. This dude right here gave me like really bad time. He kept winking at me.
In what context? Like, was it a sexual context? Or was it a playful one?
I couldn't find out because he wasn't speaking. I was like, what do you mean by this? What are you trying to say?
And he wouldn't speak. He would just keep winking.
Yeah, that was a really interesting time with this one, man. He just kept on winking.
Did you ever reciprocate? Maybe that's why he kept on. He was waiting for a reaction, a like.
I mean, I didn't want to violate his body. I already opened him up. He had bad lungs. He had such bad lungs. Oh, yeah, he was chewing tobacco a lot. Look at him. He barely has any gums. Look. No teeth.
Don't disrespect. Don't disrespect. It's just.
You asking me? I mean, so
I just wanted to know if you reciprocated the winkies on. You know, the Jay can speak to us, whether you hear him or not.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. Yeah, it was.
So he didn't wink. What'd you do? What'd you say?
I blacked out for a moment.
Whoa.
It was weird.
The last time you blacked out around a dead body, we all know who did it. And to who it was done to. And why it happened. And where it splattered. I don't need to know the details. I know what happens when you black out off this embalming fluid. You don't have to be ashamed, Terrence. It's all good with me. I'm not your parole officer. You don't have to hide your face and emotions from me. Just be yourself around me.
I am being myself. It's just that he kept saying, don't strike out.
So you did hear him talk. Did you talk back?
All I could think of was to say, release me from this chamber.
Was that before or after the blackout? It's okay, Terrence. I've already told you it's all right. Just allow yourself to feel something for once.
Let go of me! You don't deserve to touch me.
I'm not
coming here every day asking me about another dead body. But you don't work for me. Oh, no, you don't. I see you across the street over there looking through your window.
Because I'm selling plots. I'm selling burial plots. And I thought we could collaborate on a couple of things. But if you don't want it, you don't want to allow yourself the emotion.
Because you're digging too deep.
I feel like
you're digging a ditch that's farther than 16 feet. That's too bad.
I just feel like your soul. I feel like your soul is just so cavernous and hollow.
Like the bodies.
Don't disrespect his mouth anymore, please.
I'm I'm not disrespecting his mouth. I don't disrespect the bodies.
But
I celebrate them. I celebrate the bodies.
What does a celebration look like to you? For me, it's balloons and chocolate cake and hot dogs and summer salad. It's not a party without summer salad. How does your body celebration look? Also ambrosia.
That's a nice touch.
A little bit of ambrosia never kills anyone. Except my uncle.
This secret must never escape those hollow doors. Never!
All right. I won't tell. Most people, I won't tell.
What? What are you talking about?
No, I mean, I won't.
This is why I can't trust you.
No, I can't
Southern
trust
plots.
this. Of course you can't trust me. You haven't allowed yourself to saturate yourself in me. Take a dip in my waters. Drown in me. Allow me to fill your lungs.
I don't want to die inside of you.
That was so delightful. Yeah. We got one last duo for the night, and then we're going to do a thing called potluck, where anyone can come up for sort of like a last-minute jam. But please join me in welcoming cheerleader of the free world.
We're cheerleader of the free world collectively. We need something a cheer might be about. It's a gift. Hot dogs. Hot dogs.
Hot dogs. Big, long, beefy comes with mustard. Big, long, beefy, or radish too. Big, long, beefy comes with mustard. Big, long, beefy, or ketchup too.
I think that's a wrap. When you say there's a wrap, the director left. Why are you being so weird about this? It's just a commercial.
I know. I didn't think I would be here. You know, I thought I would be like doing what the Hamilton guys are doing. I didn't think I'd be using my gift this way.
Jerry, we were both the stars of our high school theater department.
It was good.
It was good.
It was so
And it was amazing.
When I was swinging and you were Helen Bowen Carter's character.
Yeah, it's Mrs. Lovett.
That's right.
Yeah. Look, sure, we thought we would.
Love it.
Yeah, I loved it. And I thought, sure, we'd be doing something a lot better than public access television commercials for hot dogs.
Local hot dogs.
The local hot dog stand.
No one uses them anymore.
There are no small parts, Joe. There are only small actors, okay? And we're not small actors.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
We're good, big actors.
There's many adjectives that could be used to describe our competency of acting.
But not small, not one single.
No! Do you know what the fucking PA told me?
What?
Told me that I couldn't even eat the hot dog. He said the hot dog was owned by local channel 6.
That is disgusting. We're the talent.
The talent! The talent!
And we'll eat the hot dog if we want to.
I have a gift.
I'm hungry. It's very old to eat a hot dog.
That's probably why.
Gross. This is not what we were supposed to be doing. We were supposed to be eating regular food in a regular restaurant commercial at bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
Applebee's, the franchise.
McDonald's.
The franchise. McDonald's, sure.
TGI Fridays.
Lobsters.
You're right. At least if it's not for hot dogs, you should be advertising something fancy.
Yeah. You know what? They left the cameras here. Let's make an advertisement for something fancy.
Yeah. You know what Mr. Brown would say from the theater department?
At Sanborn Regional High School?
Yeah, Sanborn Regional High School. Obviously, what other Mr. Brown means anything to anyone.
You're right.
He was a genius.
He was.
Look, you know what he would have said?
Use Stanislavski technique.
Yes, start with a base reality that you strengthen through intensive character development.
Yeah.
And then make something beautiful. So let's do it.
Okay. What's the fancy commercial for?
Diamonds? Best friend. Best thing that's ever happened to me. Besides
Before
the time I
came
was
out,
married.
I really did think I loved you.
That was a
Sweeney Todd. Because I was so in it, you know?
Yeah.
I was so in it.
I really did love you. Like, for real.
I know.
That was so weird.
awkward.
It was a very sad time in my life, junior year of high school.
I really tried when we made out. I really tried. I felt nothing. I
could
tried
tell
so
you
hard.
I can tell.
I tried.
I can tell. You felt the effort, but that's not what you want, really. It's fine. Okay, well, we don't have any diamonds, but we'll use replace.
Actually, I do have a diamond because
What? You're gonna propose to Jared? Oh my god! That's so exciting! Does he know yet?
Who doesn't know?
Well, how are you gonna do it? It has to be really dramatic.
Oh my god.
This is it. This is it.
He always watches local cable. That's like his thing.
He's one of the 10 viewers, yeah.
What if we took the hot dog jingle and we applied it to like our romance?
I guess I could play
Big
Jared.
Long and Beefy still works.
I guess I could take on the role of your lover, Jerry.
Okay, great, but there's like a lot of things we have to change.
Okay. Are you sure? I mean, I have a...
First of all, he's a lot taller.
Okay,
What?
find stilts.
Yeah, there's the whole costume department right here. It's a small, cramped, fucking local cable news studio.
Disgusting. Mr. Brown would never stood for this.
Mr. Brown had the cleanest costume shop.
Everything had a spot. It's all
Alphabetized.
taped off.
Men's, women's, by period, Elizabethan, 1940s.
1950s.
All the decades,
It's all
really.
pretty good. Anyway, I'll get on the stilts.
Are you
Sorry.
diverting because you feel like I'm projecting Jerry onto you?
I feel like we had a really cool thing going, just generally, as in high school, just like a cool thing.
I really did. I felt love for you, but it was like, it was like agape love. It wasn't eros, you know? Eros, like Mr. Brown used to say.
Yeah, very passionate. No, I just
So
feel
into
like
Greek theater.
I don't think anything has ever been as good for me as it was during high school, specifically Sweeney Todd. We were the king and queen. All those braces, nerds singing Rent, you know? It's like if I could just go back to that, but have boobs now and better clothes, like that would be great for me.
I used to imagine you had a dick.
Really?
I was that in love with you.
Oh, that's kind of nice in a weird way. Anyway, okay.
Hey, Lauren, you about to say diamonds?
I'm sorry, I was so in character of this tall, diamond-obsessed man that I got lost in it.
Mr. Brown would be proud.
I know, I blacked out for a second. Do you want to just, maybe like we could sing one song from Sweeney Todd to get into it really quick.
Do I?
Yeah.
I feel you, Joanna.
It's different now.
Based on a true story.
This is potluck now, which if anyone wants to come up who hasn't played, who wants to play again, who played a bunch and just want to keep this fire going, it's great. And then, as Taj said, it's a free show, so after it is on your way out, please put some money in the bank if you have a little spare. And we're here every week, every Thursday.
Come on up. Anyone else? Even if you've never done it before. Yeah. Hey! Could we get a suggestion of a place that could fit on this stage? What could inhabit this stage? A nail salon. Great, thank you very much.
Go on, take them off. Take your shoes off. Get your feet washed for you.
Do you need the color first?
I already picked it.
Oh, I mean, I was thinking this one.
Fuck it, man. Take what you want. Guess it's your nail salon today, huh? Give me the beige. Thank you. See, you still got your shoes and socks on.
Well, I
Must not want a pedicure today.
I mean, I thought I had to pay first.
Nah. Not this salon. You pay when you're satisfied. And trust me, you're gonna get satisfied.
He really recommended you, and I've never had someone touch my feet before, but.
Oh. Well, in that case, let me get my special goggles.
So how long have you had this place?
About 3 years. You still haven't taken your shoes and socks
Yeah,
off.
I'm warming up, you know, thinking about it. This is a lot of trust for me.
Do I need to call the children in here to do it for you? My children,
Jim Dyer, this was more time. I called you there.
I sent you a text, but you got a jitterbug.
It's every week on the top. Who's this?
This is Lorlina. She's the new town doctor. Gotta get her feet done, because you know, a doctor with bad looking feet is a doctor I don't want diagnosing my kids or me. Why don't you go on and get some sarsaparilla? I'll be done in about a shade of a sundial. I'll make it up to you.
Well, sarsaparilla is where they're supposed to be.
You know where the sarsaparillas are. They're in the hothouse.
Sorry to clarify, the shade of the dial, so an hour.
It'll be about Don't you be begrudgingly drinking those sarsaparilla gels. You take as many as you want, they're on the house. And you can get your